Welcome back to the Secret Underground Lair. So yesterday, I spent some time just kind of finessing all of these joints, these mortise and tenon joints that we have on our Brian Gluckstein inspired console table. Got them all fitting very nicely. I'm really happy with the fit. There's a little bit of separation here just because they're not clamped, but when clamped, they come together nice and tightly, as you can see here. There are actually 28 mortise and tenon joints on this piece, so it was an awful lot of mortise and tenoning, but it has come together very nicely. And I had neglected on our last video to include this top piece, but I got that done this morning. And today I'm going to focus on the floor, the end panels, and possibly the back. Now I had a little bit of change of plan. Originally I was going to make this top on our cabinet out of plywood, but we've decided that we're going to go for a solid maple top. So yesterday, instead of getting plywood, I got some solid maple, and instead of a plywood veneer on the back of the cabinet, we're just going to use some 1/4-inch MDF. So I have some of that here, and this will be painted black. The cabinet is going to be housing electronics, and you're not going to see the back of the cabinet, so painting it black with MDF will be just fine. So, on with the floor. That is today's adventure. So the floor of the cabinet is intended to be sitting kind of flush with the top of this facing piece here. Of course, we're going to put a little bit of face on the top of that plywood, so you won't see a plywood edge, but the floor will sit just inside like that, and by doing so, we hide this face. And it will be sitting on top of this center member for some support, and we'll be attaching some supports on the inside of the face. So my first task then is to cut our floor to 13 7/16 so it fits inside these rails, and then we'll start making cuts to cater for each of the leg segments and for the length, of course. So I have the piece set up here on the table saw, and we'll cut it to width. So cut to width, good. Now I'm going to cut it to length, but I'm just going to use the circular saw for that. We'll tape it off and use a guide. And by going slow and with the tape, we have minimal tear out, so very happy with that cut. All right, next on the agenda will be making notches now for the legs. I need 1 1/4 on each of the ends. Each of the 4 corners, I need 1 1/4 notches cut out here. Something like that. And then in the middle, 1 1/4 by 2. So I'll make all those measurements, mark it out, and then we're going to use the jigsaw to make these cuts. We'll be back when we're ready to cut them out. So I've got our little corners marked out, and we're ready to cut that now with our jigsaw. I've measured carefully, tried to cut accurately and mark accurately, but I'm sure that I'm probably going to need a little bit of finessing on each of these cuts. Well, I'll cut out the other ones and come back when we're ready to do a test fit. Okay, I've got notches cut, center in the 4 corners. Let's go give it a test fit. I think that's going to work. We do have just a little bit of a gap around the legs, but I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to be okay with that. All right, next up is going to be our end pieces and our middle piece. So I'm going to measure those and cut them to size. The end pieces are going to require a 1/4 inch rabbet all the way around. And our centerpiece is going to require a 1/4 inch, a 1/8 inch rabbet on 3 of the 4 sides. No rabbet on the bottom, but we'll do one on the top and the 2 edges. It's going to be a slightly different dimension than the ends as well. But we'll cut those rough blanks out now. Our end pieces and middle section are 11.5 inches in width. We'll be taking a 1/4 inch dado off each end, so will wind up being 11 inches of face material. Just going to make a point here that on a previous operation with this particular piece of wood, I had made a cut along this edge, and it wasn't quite straight, so I marked it. I marked the wood saying there's a bowed edge here. So I'm glad I did that. Now I know that I want to make all my reference cuts from this end, not from this end. So when you're cutting a piece, it's helpful to mark it so that you know for future use where you want to take your cuts or take your measurements. So I'm going to now cut the 2 end pieces to length. We'll measure that up, and then we'll run that 1/4 inch dado around everything. Just having a look at this cut, I'm thinking I may not have made it quite deep enough. I'll do a check, and I might have to redo this one. I'll try not to get in the way too much. A little snug over here on that one side. But making it. There we go. Still just a little snug. I'm going to take just a little bit more off that. I don't want to be that tight. I do want it to have a reasonable fit. Just take a smidge off that. Be right back. Okay, that's the look we're going for, but I can see that I have a little bit of a gap now, and I figure I'm probably about a 1/16 of an inch. I could probably take about a 1/16 of an inch off the off those panels, but before I do that, I'm just going to apply a clamp and just see if the clamping pressure will bring it together. I don't want to go too short or too narrow, so let's just see what we can do. Lengthwise, we're smack on. Really happy with that. And our fit inside is looking good. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Let me check with a clamp. Actually, a clamp is going to bring that together very nicely. I'll try one on the top. Not quite so good on the top, so I'm thinking I might take just probably about a 1/16 of an inch off that. And we'll give it another test. Okay, I'm very happy with the fit on this end. With minimal pressure, I'm getting a real nice tight mortise joint there and there. And it's looking good up here and looking good here. Excellent. I didn't realize I made one mistake on this inside panel, and that is I didn't need to cut the dado on the rabbet on the top of the shelf. No harm, just wasn't necessary. So that is one end looking good. Of course, I'm going to take this off again because I want to drill a set of holes here to accommodate a shelf. I'm not going to drill the entire side. I'm probably just going to put in about four holes to make that shelf adjustable a little bit. We don't need quite as many as we did on the tall cabinet. And but before I do that, I'm going to get this other end piece put in place. So lessons learned here. I think we have the adjustments that we need, so I'll cut out that. I'll cut out the end for here. Okay, so there's our floor, our two ends, and our middle piece now in place. And with a little bit of clamping pressure applied, we wind up with exactly the right width. We are 14 and 15/16 from face of the leg to back of, from face of the leg here to the back edge there on all three legs. So very happy with the fit of that. That's working out nicely. Next I'm going to put in the back. So we'll cut those to size and they should just slip right in. Shouldn't have any real technical challenges there. There's no dados or rabbets to cut. They're already in the legs. Okay, have the back piece set out on the table saw. So we'll just cut that off to length. That's the piece we want for length. Then I'm going to trim it down to height and we'll slip it in the cabinet. And there is the back of the cabinet now in place. And I did the other side as well. So this is what our cabinet is starting to look like. Still, of course, all a dry fit. Next up, I'm going to be taking these pieces of maple. So we have this very wide plank here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to rip it right down the middle and then trim up two edges on this narrow piece, and we're going to glue the three pieces together to make the top. So I'll get the big piece on the saw and we'll cut that using our bed rail technique to get a nice straight edge. Be back in a minute when I have that set. I've also taken the time to mark this piece. So I have a B side of the blade here. That's the B side. I'm just going to mark that actually. And we have the A side. These guys are heavy. So now when I cut our next piece, I'll get the A and B sides and we can get the A's matching the B's and the B's matching the A's. All right, our piece is now ripped. We got A and B sides marked. And in case you were wondering what I'm talking about with the A and B side, as the blade comes out of the saw, of course I'm trying to make sure that it is perfectly vertical. But there's a chance I may be off by a little wee bit, half a degree. So if you imagine then that the blade is tilted a little bit, if I cut a piece, rip a piece halfway through, that cuts at an angle. And I call this the A side and this the B side. If I join them together, they're going to match up perfectly and we'll have a flat plane because that's how it went through the saw. If on the other hand, I tried to match this piece with a piece that was cut the other way, and when I join them together, there's going to be an angle. It'll be a mitered angle. So that's why I'm concentrating on matching the A and B sides together. And that's how we're gonna fit. I can tell this centerpiece has got a little bit of a twist to it. So there'll be a little bit of work to do on our surface, on the router sled. But there's enough here that we can glue that, clamp it, and in the morning we'll have a piece ready to work with. I'm stretching my clamps to about the limit with this glue up, but that's okay. It's going to make a very nice top. Okay, that's our tabletop done. Well, sorry, that's our tabletop or console top glued together. So tomorrow we'll come back and we'll put this on the router sled and get it nice and smooth, and then do some sanding, cutting it to fit, and some assembly so we can set it on top of the cabinet or the console. So thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next video.